Hello and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So today we're moving on to the letter D, and I've decided to make us a dessert. We do have a holiday coming up this weekend, and I thought this dessert would be very appropriate. We're going to make carrot cupcakes with cream cheese icing. So the first thing that I want to go over with you are our ingredients. I just want you to see that you probably have most of the ingredients already in your pantry. Baking powder, baking soda, a little bit of cinnamon, some kosher salt. I use unbleached all-purpose flour, and this is King Arthur, which is one of my favorites. Sugar, a little bit of vegetable oil, and some wonderful Nielsen-Massey vanilla, and for our icing, confectioner sugar. So I do think that most of these ingredients you probably do already have in your pantry. And of course, carrots, which are very important. In this recipe, it does call for 1/2 pound of carrots, and I just want you to know that I do cut off the top and the bottom and peel them before I go ahead and weigh them, okay? So why don't we get started? I'll grab our tray and we will get started. Okay, here we go. So I have all of our ingredients measured and ready for us. This is the 1/2 pound of carrots, which really ends up measuring out to be about 2 cups. This is not tightly packed, but this is about 2 cups, and it was about 3 large carrots. We have 1/2 cup of toasted pecans. If you don't want to put a nut in your carrot cupcake, you could do golden raisins in place of the nuts. And then we have our flour, baking powder, baking soda, and cinnamon, which is all going to get incorporated together. We have 1 cup of sugar and 2 large eggs, 1/4 of a cup of buttermilk, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of the vanilla extract. So the first thing we need to do is put the 2 eggs in our mixer along with the 1 cup of sugar. These cupcakes, and by the way, if you doubled this recipe, you could have a beautiful 2-layered carrot cake. So all you'd have to do is just double the recipe. Let me just set this down for a second, get all that sugar in. This is a very nice, light carrot cake. Some carrot cakes tend to be a little heavier. They put more ingredients into it, so it becomes a little more dense. A lot of people will put raisins plus nuts. Pineapple sometimes goes into it, sometimes coconut. In this case, it's really pure carrot, and we do add a little bit of nut for that wonderful crunch. And as I said, if you wanted to substitute the nut for golden raisins, that would be a great substitute. Okay, I'm going to put this, and by the way, I just want to let you know, I do have the whisk attachment, not the paddle attachment, just so that you can see it. I have my whisk attachment in here. So what we want to do is whisk the eggs and sugar on high for about 5 minutes to get some nice volume, and it helps lighten the cake. So just get this going, and I'll set a timer for about 5 minutes, and that should be absolutely perfect. We'll get this going, and we'll see you back in 5 minutes. I'm going to take it out just so that I can show you what the eggs and sugar actually now looks like. So you can see it has some air in it, it's well incorporated, and we're ready for our next step. Okay, so let's put this back in. And you could do this by hand. I would say that if you had, or actually I should say with a stand mixer, you know, a hand mixer, not exactly by hand, but more of a hand mixer, it would probably take a good 8 to 10 minutes, you know, twice the amount of time that it would take in a mixer like this. Okay, so let's just talk about our dry ingredients. We have 1 cup of flour, and I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and a half a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I'm going to put that. I tend to enjoy, and I do think a lot of bakers today don't even bother to do this anymore. This is just me being me, and I happen to really like doing this. I do it all the time. I pass it all through the strainer so that we get a little bit of air in there, and also so that the baking powder and baking soda is very nicely dispersed. So I have a piece of parchment paper on my table. I love to do that because I find it easier to get the flour actually right into the mixer. So it's just a regular strainer, and I'm going to just put this on low. But even before we do that, just so that we're ready to go, this is a half a cup of the vegetable oil, 1/4 of a cup of buttermilk, along with 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla, delicious vanilla. So we're just going to mix that together. I think that's good. And I think I have a little whisk here. Just give that a good little stir. Okay, so we have our wet ingredients, our dry ingredients, we have our grated carrot, and we have our pecans. By the way, all of this, when you get all of your ingredients together, this is called mise en place. It's when you have everything in its place. And when it comes to baking, I think it is very essential. It's also essential for cooking, for me anyways. When you have everything right in front of you, you're sure not to forget anything. And once you have all of your ingredients, you're ready to go. And usually 9 out of 10 times, you're going to be extremely successful. Okay, so I'm just going to put this on low. There we go. And I'll slowly drizzle in our liquid, which is the oil, the buttermilk, and the vanilla. Until it's nicely incorporated. You can use your rubber spatula if you want to make sure to get it all out. It makes the dishwasher's job a lot easier too. Okay, so this is nicely mixed. It doesn't take very long, okay? One thing with cakes is once you get your flour, your gluten, you don't want to activate the gluten. The flour has gluten, and once it touches liquid, it'll start to activate. So what you want to do is try to use as little stir, as little action as possible, so that you end up with a really nice, light, delicate cake. Nothing too heavy, too dense. So I'm just going to put this on low. And here is all of our dry ingredients, which I'm going to just slowly get into the bowl so it doesn't come flying out at us. And then just mix it until all the dry ingredients are mixed in with the wet. It's almost there. Still on low. Okay, that's it. And the rest we do by hand. I'll just take my whisk and I'll go around the bowl in case there's any flour around the edges. So here is our beautiful batter. I think you can see it. And we're all done with our whisk. And the rest is just folding. So I just want to talk about the carrots for 1 second. You can either grate them in a food processor if you have one, or you can just use a simple grater like this. I use the fine side, not the large side, the smaller side. And you just take your carrot and just grate it down, and that's how I end up with this, which is about 2 cups. So here's our carrots. It's all going to go in at once. And then the nuts. I do want to talk a little bit about the nuts. It's really important to toast your nuts. Get all that wonderful flavor, wonderful crunch. You want to be able to know what type of nut you're eating, and you should be able to tell once you get it into your batter. So the pecans, once you get them in the oven and roast them at 350 degrees for about 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes, you should be able to pull your tray out and smell them. And if you can really smell the nut, you know it's ready to go. 350 for about 8 minutes is generally pretty good. The other thing is, because there's so much oil in nuts, they actually do go rancid. They can go bad. The best way to store your nuts are in the freezer. So once you get your bag of nuts, you open them up, you use them the first time. The rest, throw in a freezer Ziploc bag or into a container and pop them in your freezer. It's the best way to keep them. Okay, so here, half a cup of nuts, or you could do a half a cup of raisins. And then you're just going to take your rubber spatula and just fold it all together. You don't want to whisk it. You want to just go around your bowl and just fold. Okay, so you just go around your bowl. Okay, there we go. And now you can see our batter. Our batter is ready to go. Let's grab our muffin tins. I would say that this should make anywhere from 15 to 16 cupcakes. So I do have some cupcake liners in here, and I tend to use this nice little ice cream scoop to get it out. I think for me it works the best, but however you normally do it is totally great with me. Okay, so all we're going to do is just get some batter about 3/4 of the way up, and these bake at 350 degrees. We'll check them in 25 minutes. They may need to go another 5. It all depends on your oven, but I'll show you what you're looking for. You want to just make sure that when you put in a skewer that it comes out nice and clean. So we'll finish this up, we'll get these in the oven, and we'll be right back. Okay, so our cupcakes are baking in the oven. Once again, 350 degrees. We'll check them, I think we'll check them in 20 minutes and see how they're doing. They'll bake anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes, should be perfect. And I do have a little cake tester here, and all we need to do is just put it right in the center, and that's all you need to do to just test to make sure that there's no crumb on this little skewer. If it comes out clean, your cupcakes are ready. So let's get started with our icing. Who doesn't love cream cheese icing? I haven't met anyone yet anyways. Okay, so here we have 1 pound or 2 packages. This is the Philadelphia cream cheese, 2 8-ounce packages. And very important, you want this to be room temperature. And if it's not, you can take it out of its package and microwave it for a few seconds to get it soft. That's important. Okay, we're going to use our whisk attachment again. And let's get this mixed a little bit, make sure it's nice and smooth. I apologize for the sound of the mixer, but we do need to use it here. So hopefully I can talk over the mixer. Okay. All right, that's nice and soft already. It looks beautiful. I can tell. It was nice room temperature, so it's really in good shape. Here's our butter, 8 ounces of butter, unsalted butter. So let's just get our butter in there. Oops. Okay, and then we'll mix this until it's nicely incorporated. We'll add a little bit of vanilla and our confectioner's sugar. So let me just grab our vanilla here. It will be 1 teaspoon of vanilla to 1.5 cups of confectioner's sugar. So let's get this on low. Then I'm going to raise it for a minute just to get it nicely incorporated. Okay, just going to take it off here, just so you can see. Okay, so you can see it's nice and smooth and nicely incorporated. So now we will continue. I'll put in our teaspoon of vanilla. Snap that in. We'll get a teaspoon of vanilla in here, and then we'll slowly add our confectioner's sugar. Okay. 1 teaspoon. Okay, so our teaspoon of vanilla went in. And let me just put this aside. I'm going to grab my parchment paper. I think you can tell I'm a big fan. I think that we should buy stock in parchment paper, but it is pretty wonderful. I'm going to put my 1.5 cups of confectioner's sugar in here. Okay, now if you don't want to wear it, I have black on. I did that for a purpose. If you don't want to wear all this confectioner's sugar, you want your mixer to be on low, and you go ahead and you add your confectioner's sugar. This icing is not super sweet. If you find that it's not sweet enough for you, of course you can go ahead and always add more. All right, so the other thing also is if you feel that the consistency of the icing isn't loose enough, you can always add just a little bit of milk, and that will loosen up your icing. Okay, let's get this on. You should really mix this on high now for about 30 seconds to 1 minute to make sure it's really nicely incorporated. It looks really good. So we still have about 6 more minutes for our cupcakes to come out. We're close though. Okay, so we'll talk about the cupcakes. When they do come out, it's important to let them cool completely before you go ahead and put your icing. Just grab a rubber spatula and just go around. Make sure it's well incorporated. You can do this by hand. By the way, if you don't want to grate your carrots by hand, you know you can also use a food processor and use your grating blade and grate it on your food processor instead. Okay, so here we have our delicious icing, which is very, very, very good. Okay, nice consistency, looks nice. Put our cupcakes right in the front. So when you're using a bag like this, you want to use, I'm right-handed, so all the pressure is coming from my right hand. I'm just turning and twisting and getting all the air out of the bag. So, and all the pressure is coming from up here. I'm not putting any pressure down here, nothing with my left hand. So, I have the icing all the way to the bottom, and it's ready to go. So when you put your, start to pipe the icing on the cupcakes, you want to use, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, I'm right-handed, all the pressure is coming from my right hand. Okay? Let's go around. So another thing that you could put on top of the cupcakes, a couple of things. If you wanted to let people know there were nuts in there, in case there happened to be someone that can't have nuts, you could sprinkle some chopped nuts right on the top. You could toast some coconut, lightly toast some coconut, and you could put some coconut on the top, which would also be very nice. There we go. Okay. Okay, so now you can see our lovely cupcakes. They look great. Okay, so here we go. Our cupcakes are done. Hopefully you can see that. And now I'll just check it. It should spring back a little bit, which it does very nicely. And now we'll just check with our cake tester They look terrific. We have lots of cupcakes to eat. Okay, see, there's no crumb. Completely clean, which is what you're looking for. And you let these cool completely. You can freeze them as is. You can frost them and then freeze them. It's entirely up to you. You could do it either way. So here we go. This isn't even iced. It would be hard for me to do that if it was. All right, and break it open, and you can see the texture of the carrot cupcake. You see how nice and light it is? It's not heavy or dense. It's super light and very, very delicious. Okay, so that's our easy dessert class for tonight. I hope that you try making them. They're very good, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Okay, good night, everyone.